Okay, in this recording I'm going to show ATAK Osprey and how to use it. ATAK Osprey is the ATAK client for the Osprey search and rescue related application for predicting where a lost person may have traveled based on geospatial data and other inputs. So there are two different modes. The default mode is an end-user device mode where it's entirely offline and all of the algorithms are actually running on the device itself. And that's actually what I'm going to demonstrate today. So you can see that I have ATAK open now. I can open the hamburger menu and navigate to Osprey. And you can see that here is the plugin view. You notice that there is a brown box on the ATAK map. That is actually indicating what land cover cache I have on my device. And so what I'll do is I will first create a lost person instance. So click on the new LPI, and then I'll enter some upfront information such as the base speed at advance, the lost person's weight, roughly the lost person's load, what they were carrying, and there's some advanced options you can specify as well, but let me just hit next. Here we can enter the name of the lost person instance, so what name do we want to identify this person as, and also the date and the time the person was last seen. So we'll say they were last seen a couple hours ago. Hit next. Now we can enter the time zone, Eastern time zone here. Next we can draw the area of interest or the bounding box. So I'll draw this inside this data cache bounds. You can see that it just notified me saying that it needs to be a certain size, so let me make it a little bit larger. Okay, now we can enter the last known position. So this is the area where the person was last known to be found. So we can either do circle, point, polygon, parachute, drop. So let's do circle. And then we can draw that. Click to place the vertex, or the center, and then click again to place the radius. And we can see now that that is there. So next we're going to enter the motion model. So there are a few different motion models that come bundled. So we'll go with the rendezvous points model. So this is a model that expects entering of different rendezvous points, or points that lost military personnel might navigate to for safety. So let's enter those by clicking on the map. Okay, now I hit next. Now it's asking the exclusion zones, or any known exclusion zones. So a known exclusion zone is an exclusion zone, so an area that a lost person would know to avoid beforehand. So I can draw this, put one here. Maybe there's some danger in that area. I can draw another one somewhere else. And additionally, we can set the time range. So by default, it's static, and that the exclusion zone would be applicable across the entire timeline. But we can actually go and change some of that. So I can click on this first exclusion zone, enter the begin date. Let's say it is 2 p.m. on March 12th, and then it ends on 3 p.m. on March 12th. And we'll keep the other one static. Now hit confirm. Now I can enter discovered exclusion zones. And these are exclusion zones, or areas that the lost person don't know about beforehand, but if they encounter them, they would avoid them. So I will draw one of those over here. And you can see that it's indicated by this yellow circle, as opposed to the red discovered ones, or red known ones. And hit confirm. And then we can see the land cover metadata. So this has all of the various codes, MLRC codes for the various land cover that you can adjust the cost and the speed of advance on the right-hand side, the columns. So these indicate the cost of the last person navigating through that type of land cover data. So open water, obviously it's a much harder means to navigate through as opposed to walking through evergreen forest. So that cost is higher. Yeah, so the speed of advance is if they were to actually navigate through open water, what would the cost of that traversal be in the algorithm? So let me hit next. You can see that it's now asking the movement schedule. So this is when the last person is moving. So we can do continuous, night, or day. Continuous means that it's both night and day. So they're moving actively. I'll hit finish, and then it's asking me if I want to process. I'll hit yes. And now it's validating all of the inputs and running initial distribution, generating 5,000 possible paths, using the land cover and elevation data that's on the device, and all of the geospatial inputs that we entered previously, including the last known position, the 3 exclusion zones, and the parameters that we specified, the IP weight, the IP isolated personnel weights, the isolated personnel gear that they're carrying, and so forth. So I will actually pause the video for a second. This will take about a minute or so to run, and I'll be back. Okay, so it has finished, and you can see now that there is some new artifacts on the screen, and also this timeline slider. So this timeline slider allows the user to see a heat map distribution traversing over time, indicating the probability of where the lost person may be over time. So if I zoom in, you can see that we have those exclusion zones. We have the last known position, which has a heat map in there, indicating at this point in time, the very beginning of the timeline slider, that there's actually a high probability of being in that last known position, which makes sense. So you can see that there's red and orange and yellow, red being high probability, orange being medium probability, and yellow being low probability. And what I can actually do is I can actually go into this layers settings, which is in the top right here. And I can actually hide or remove different layers. So this has all of those features that I just explained. So for example, we could hide the bounding box or show it. And you notice that there's a bunch of white lines. Those are Osprey paths. Those are all of the possible paths that the lost person may travel. So I can just hide that for a second. They're called sample paths. Because you can now more clearly see that there's that heat map in the last known position boundary. So let me go back for a second, and now we'll try traversing the timeline. And what we should see is that there are that the lost person is moving through the area and avoiding the exclusion zones, and then ultimately trying to navigate to the rendezvous points that we specified. And we can see that over time, it starts to navigate towards those with a high probability being at the rendezvous points. So yeah, if we go back to layers for a second, we can see that there is actually elevation view. So I can actually click on that, and it will now show that elevation map. And we also have the ability to show land cover that is just not in this video at the moment, but will be a feature soon, so you can see that that image as well. So, but yeah, this elevation map is showing. If I can actually click on the right hand side here on this button next to the elevation button, you can actually see that it has a legend, and this indicates, okay, so at 66 to 143 meters, that is the elevation in that red color. So and so forth with the other numbers and colors too. So yep, so that is that. And now I just want to show that there's a few other features. One is this View LPIs feature. So if you click on that, it will show you this view where you can actually go and select other lost person instances that you have on the device. So for example, I have 3 lost person instances. I can actually archive a lost person instance. So what that means is it takes it from the device and puts it, zips it to a zip file, and then stores it onto the SD card. And this allows for optimization of space and storage and removing all of the artifacts from ATAK to reduce space. So yeah, let me just go back for a second and then go to settings, which is this gear on the top right. I'll just do that again. And you can see that there is a bunch of settings here. There's the ability to create land cover data cache, and that's actually what we have in this brown box that you see on this map. That's a land cover data cache, which has it has land cover and elevation data, so it's a land-based cache, and which makes sense because we use the land model. But we can actually create different caches. We can create an ocean cache as well. So let's do that. So I will navigate over to the ocean, and then click on this plus button next to the offline data cache, and it will now ask me to select a bounds for the cache. So I'll click on select, and then I'll draw a bounding box by clicking a vertex and then clicking again to place another vertex to create the box. And then I can specify the name, so I'll say Ocean 1. And now I can hit the download button. So I will click on that and then stop the video. We do that. Okay, so the area data finished downloading, and you can see that there is now this yellow box that indicates the current maritime data bounds. So now I'll try to create a lost person instance using the open ocean model. So let me select new LPI. Here's some parameters again, so I'll keep all of those default. Hit next. Enter the time last seen, so I'll say it was several hours ago. Hit next. Enter the time zone. Hit next, and then I'll draw the bounding box. And then I'll enter the last known position. And now I'm going to enter the open ocean model as the ocean model type. Hit next, and now I can specify the parameters for that model. So is a lost person on a boat or raft? I'll say yes, and then it asks to enter the wind direction. So I'll say the average wind direction. So I'll say it's going northeast, and the average wind speed I'll say is 12 knots, and I'll hit next. And then I'll say that the lost person is traveling both night and day. Hit finish. And then now it's processing and generating the distribution using the currents data and the inputs that we just entered. So I'll pause again, wait for this to finish. Okay, so that finished. You can see on the map now there is lost person info data, and there's a heat map, so I can actually traverse the timeline slider, and you can see that the heat map is moving, indicating the probability of where the lost person might be. You can also see that there are these purple arrows that indicate the direction of the currents. You can see as I traverse the timeline slider, the current data is saying, okay, it's moving downward, and then it starts to move back upward. So there's this circular kind of action happening in this example. But there's other lost person instances that you could create using this open ocean model that might have a more linear path. But this one here has a moving downward and then moving back up kind of path. Yep. And so if I go to the layer settings again, you can disable that layer if you want to, the current layer, so I'll disable that, and then you can see it more easily what's happening. There's the Osprey path, I'll disable the sample paths as well. You can see just the heat map there. If I go back again and traverse the timeline slider, you can see that the heat map is moving downward and then back upward, and it's kind of oscillating up and down a bit in this example. Additionally, the other thing is that there's some settings that are of note. There's some performance options, so you can set the maximum bounding box for creation. So if you have a more performant phone, you might be able to increase that bounding box area so that you can create larger bounding boxes. So what will happen is if the bounding box is too large to be supported, then it will actually shrink it down. So if you created a 950 km square kilometer bounding box, it would actually shrink it down to 900. And same with the max number of distributions. This indicates how many distributions KMLs to blah blah blah.